Yeah, I hear a little bit of echoing.
All right, good evening and welcome. I'm here with Brad. Today we are here to chat about why Aurum is a legitimate platform. And so this is super important to us. We have been scammed before. We don't like being scammed. I've been in the crypto space for a long time. I've spoken at a lot of conventions. I've been a community educator for a long time in crypto. And this is a mostly crypto trading platform. Brad, before we get going, tell everyone who's listening a little bit about yourself so they can get some
Sure.
perspective on why your credible eyes have weight here for when we're evaluating a project.
Sure. Well, I've been online now for 26 years. You and I have known each other for what, about 10 years, 10-ish or so.
Yep.
We have a mutual friend in Barry, a longtime friend of mine and former business partner, which we'll get into. But I've been in online marketing space slash affiliate marketing space and the trading space and speculative trading space for about 26 years. 20 of those years I've spent in the Forex industry, mainly from the automated bot side. Forex trading, foreign exchange, largest market in the world. It's where the banks play. Basically, it's their pond to swim in, and us little retail traders, we get to nibble around the edges and get a little bit of the cream off the top. So I was always fascinated by the idea of passive cash flow. Once I had a business that was cash flowing with active income, and I was like, okay, how can I make this grow passive income? And how could I separate my time from my money? Divorce my time from my money. That was always something that was kind of I guess, the dilemma or something that I didn't have access to that when I was a freelance artist. So before all this internet stuff, back in the 90s, I was just painting pictures for a living. And it wasn't until I read a book by Robert Kiyosaki, Cash Flow Quadrant, that I realized I didn't own a business. I owned a job. I was self-employed, but I owned a job and I didn't have any leverage. Leverage was really the missing ingredient for me. And so I looked for ways to find leverage, money and time leverage. And so that's when I found the internet. It was like a blank canvas back then. This is 1998. And I spent the first few years running between mad and frustrated. Really didn't know what I was doing, just flying by the seat of my pants. But I eventually kind of figured some things out and I kind of cracked the code to internet marketing in about 2000-ish, 2001, and started having some good success where I had some additional cash flow and active income that I could then invest with. And so early in the early days, I was looking at opportunities that were like in the auto surf industry. This is long before crypto existed, so we used electronic payment processors, the eGold, and a couple other ones out there, and one by one, all of those platforms eventually either failed, they ran out of money, or they rug pulled. And so I kept on hearing this whole idea of we're generating profits in Forex. Some of these platforms that were the daily pay type, that were saying we're making our profits trading Forex. So I'm like, what is this Forex stuff? So 2006 is when I first looked into Forex. I looked into the automated trading side with bots, and I really had no idea what I was doing. No trading experience whatsoever. But I knew that if I could just figure it out and get those bots to work for me, I didn't have to rely on all these other platforms. So I ended up losing and blowing up a lot of accounts, losing a lot of money, blowing up a lot of accounts in the early days. Had no idea, anything about trading, but I learned little by little. And so over the last 20 years, I actually learned how to trade manually, although I don't have any desire to sit in front of a screen looking at charts and trading the markets. I love automation, and so that's what attracted me to Aurum. And I also love the idea of being able to make double-digit monthly returns, because who wants to deal with, peanuts from the traditional financial markets when you can make great returns here with a small amount of your risk capital? You don't have to go all in with your entire portfolio. And so about 12 years I spent with my longtime friend Barry. We spent doing research, vetting, and testing alternative and unconventional investment vehicles. We made a business out of it. We had a membership club. People paid us money to share our research. So we spent 12 years. Yeah.
And just to stop on that point, so not only are you now an experienced trader, you built bots for yourself, you
Yeah.
know how the markets work and what could be good or not. But you essentially, and maybe I'm paraphrasing here, and I'll let you elaborate a little bit more. I just want to make sure they're really hearing this point. You guys were kind of like in the fraud detection business, more or less, right? You were trying to suss
Sure.
out scammers and figure
Yeah,
out
we
which
were.
projects were
Yeah,
real.
I mean, I had a very, very skeptical eye, so did Barry. We looked at everything with a highly skeptical eye because we knew that 99% of the stuff that's out there in the kind of passive crypto space and or forex space was just garbage and or, just scammy, shady, fraudulent, not real. And so we got pretty good at like being able to suss out various opportunities, figure out, if there's something real there worth pursuing, worth sharing with our members. So the majority of stuff, at least 90% of the stuff that I would come across, that Barry would come across, it did not pass the smell test. So didn't even see the light of day as far as us sharing that information with our members. It was only the cream of the crop stuff that we really felt good about, stuff that we would have a personal interest in as well. So we were looking at things and researching ideas and investment vehicles, not only for our members, but for ourselves as well to participate in. And so we got pretty good at getting getting down to scratching below the surface, figuring out what due diligence looks like, what red flags look like, green flags look like, talking to the people that were running the show, so to speak. It wasn't just about surface level, oh, let me look at this website and see if it's legit, see if we can figure out what's going on. We would always reach out to the people behind it, admins, owners, what have you, because it's the people that matter most. And so what I want to really say here is that due diligence can only get you so far. It's limited. Okay.
Sure.
Um, the thing that also matters as well as just looking at things from the surface and asking questions, figuring out who's behind the opportunity, who are the executives, is actually testing things with your own money. And that's what we did. So we would go in, have some skin in the game, just go in with a little bit of skin in the game at first, and we would kick the tires and we would just see things from the inside out. And that's what I always suggest people doing with Aurum. So Aurum is a very different animal compared to all the other stuff that I see out there, especially when it comes to the executive team. So this is where kind of the rubber meets the road, in my opinion. It's not just a matter of seeing that there is proof of trading going on behind the scenes, which you've seen already.
Yep,
Barry's
definitely.
seen, several of us on the team have seen trading proof, and we've seen the progression of the accounts that we've been able to have access to. And that's great, but to me, that's only one part of the equation. It's like, okay, who is running the show? Who are the executives? And I think that's where a lot of other platforms out there, and there's just a dime a dozen. A lot of them are just one-trick ponies. They're so-called, passive bot AI. They're picking up on the whole AI fintech thing now.
Yeah.
I see that happening. They're like, okay, I see that Aurum is getting pretty popular out there. Let's see if we can piggyback and nibble off of some of the success they've had by using similar lingo. It sounds great on the surface, but usually it's just smoke and mirrors. Yeah.
Brad, you've been trading for a long time. Speaking of smoke and mirrors and shady platforms, one of the biggest red flags for me, having seen good, bad, and ugly over many years, is those fixed return platforms. Like,
Oh yeah.
could you guarantee a fixed return to somebody over a long period of time, especially if it's a large one? I mean, how could that possibly happen?
Only thing I see fixed returns in is traditional insurance products, annuities. That's
Right.
it. Even dividends from dividend paying stocks are going to vary. So yeah, anything, and that was kind of probably the number one red flag that we looked for, a daily pay program that had fixed returns. I mean, clear sign, total scam, not real, because in reality, real trading is not fixed. You're going to have some wins, some losses. I know that Orm's bots, they have about a 75 to 78% win rate, which means they lose 20% of the time. They still win overall because the majority of the trades are profitable. But anything that is offering a fixed daily pay, 1.8% I've seen recently. I won't
Yeah.
mention the program, but 1.8%. And plus they're paying out commissions on that. And I'm just like, that's not possible. That's not real. It's just
Right.
not real.
So you carry on. I didn't mean to interrupt. You were talking about the executive team. I just wanted to interject about like we're talking
Yeah.
about red flags and green flags.
Yeah.
the first things we spot first, because I'm not even going to look
Oh,
at a
yeah.
management team if I'm seeing tons of red flags before we even get there. So
Yes. Yes. So, yeah, when it comes to the executive team, what you'll find with the competition out there are so-called competitors. There's really, in my opinion, there's no competition when it comes to Aurum. It is a step above the rest in many different levels and many different factors. But when it comes to management teams or executives with various platforms out there, most of the time, um, they're either paid actors or they're ghosts. They don't exist. You can't
AI
find
bots
it.
now,
What's that?
AI faces and cartoon.
Yes,
Yeah,
you'll notice that, and I notice this a lot, where they'll just use AI generated photos for their biopics, and then you can't. There's no online presence that you can find with these people. It's just basically they're ghosts, and so that's a huge red flag, obviously. Contrast that with what you have with Orem. You got Brian Benson leading the charge. He's very, very much out there. Not only is out there online, but he's out there in person.
big
He's
time.
at some of the biggest crypto events in the world, not only as a participant, but he's also being asked to speak on stages and panel discussions. So he's also he's a Forbes Financial Council member. You can't buy into that membership. It's not a pay to play. It's an invitation only membership club. And so you have to imagine that Forbes is going to do some very, very deep vetting and due diligence on somebody like that and the company that he is CEO of. So for me, that says a lot. Reading between the lines, just Forbes Financial Council member, that is huge. To me, that's like a lot of credibility there. But also the other executives, you can find their LinkedIn profiles. They're very much visible, except for the few of the management team that are working more behind the scenes on the development side. But I've had a chance to meet them in person. One thing that I look for, and we've talked about this before, at the global launch event in Dubai in January. For me, I always have when I go to business events, I always have my BS detector on high alert. Spidey senses too, right? High
Yeah,
alert. And
absolutely.
what I'm looking for is I'm looking for big egos. I'm looking for arrogance. I'm looking for any red flags, any inconsistencies or incongruencies. And so when I went to that event, I didn't have any expectations. I was just there more as, I guess it was an intel gathering event for me. I was there to gather more intel, to be able to meet and greet with the execs. I wanted to talk to Brian personally, wanted to go to the home office, see what that was like. And so I got to do all of that. We were all, most of us leaders, there was about maybe 15 of us from the team that got to attend, spend a lot of time together. And I had several conversations, private conversations with Brian Benson. He was very accessible. He was very down to earth. The complete opposite of somebody that has a big ego or arrogant. Didn't experience any of that. Quite the opposite. He was the last guy to leave pretty much at the event. So the last day, I bumped into him in the hotel lobby, and I was getting ready to check out and leave for the day and hit on my flight back home. And I said, "How long are you staying? Well, where are you heading off to? When are you leaving?" And he says, "I'm here for the rest of the day, as long as it takes to talk to everybody that wants to talk to me." And that really, to me, that really solidified my experience with him. Like he was very open. He wanted to hear from us in the field, like, what do we want? What's on our wish list? And I just never experienced that with any other type of, CEO or, project like this. I also got to meet Ahmad, the co-founder and CMO, who is really, he's kind of the reason why Orm exists, because he was the one that bridged the gap between the founders that came to him, that consulted with him years ago initially, and he's the one also that recruited Brian Benson. So, and everything is just, they're adding more and more high level executives to the mix. Leonardo, who's in charge of the centralized exchange now, the Aurum exchange, which he was the former head of Brazil for Binance when Brian was at Binance. So Binance, Brian's pedigree was really, I think, the one thing that made me to take a really deep dive after I knew that the trading results were real. Like there was something that was backing what we're seeing. And I saw one of those accounts, one of the example accounts, that one of them that you saw, a KuCoin account. And when I saw it last week, That one was funded with, I think, 1.5 million back in January 2023. So over 3 years of a track record. And when I saw that account last week, it was over 20 million. So we're talking a 1900% return in about 39 months. You can't make that stuff up, you know. I saw it with my own eyes, and you saw it. And they definitely got something that's their secret sauce, and they are guarding it very, very tightly. That's why people have asked, well, why don't they put something out there on the blockchain that everybody can see? They can see every trade and every closed trade, every transaction on the blockchain. It's like, well, if that was your intellectual property that you spent potentially 7, 8 figures creating and have a staff of maybe 3 dozen techs, analysts, developers, programmers that are part of that back end team, you probably wouldn't want your intellectual property out there to advertise to competitors so they can just rip it off because AI is extremely powerful. It's getting to the point where it could actually copy somebody else's strategy if they had enough data. So, yeah, they keep it tight to the vest, and that's okay. I mean, for those of us leaders that have had a chance to look behind the scenes, we're here to kind of just share that experience. And many of us do have trading experience. We knew what we were looking at, and really that was enough, I guess, proof for me to feel like I could have conviction about everything else. Because if one thing is congruent and another thing is congruent, then chances are everything else that they're saying or talking about is the real deal. So,
Well, another thing that I like is, we've had multiple professionals put their eyes on the trading. We've seen the trading history. We've go to the worst week in crypto, still profitable.
yeah,
You go look at the deposit history. We've seen it on multiple platforms.
yeah,
It could be a big grand magic trick, but I mean, when people are telling them to log out and log on while you're watching and they do it, you're breaking the normal pattern of what they were trying to show you and letting the
yeah,
professional eyeballs guide, click here next, click there next.
yeah. We were the
That's
ones running the show, not
hard
the
to beat
trade
that.
tech crew. Yeah. So, I mean, again, this gets back to due diligence, right? It's all part of that, and I take more of a holistic approach. So it's not just a matter of the proof of trading, but it's also the executive team, their pedigree, their track record of success, and it's the whole package. And so everything that they've said they were going to roll out, they've done. So they've been people over their word. That's really important. Typically, what I've found is, and I'm celebrating my 6 month anniversary with Aurum in about 10 days. The first 3 weeks I came on board, which was last October, I was just in due diligence mode. I was kicking the tires, making withdrawals. I started making withdrawals my second day. I came in with a small amount, topped it up with about maybe 10K, and I didn't share it with anybody for the first few weeks. I was still just like trying to do my homework, make sure everything was working, withdrawals were coming out. And then I decided to start sharing with some clients, from associates, friends, and so it was maybe about mid November when I really got started. And at this point, I see everything else that's out there, just like you do. We get inundated with all
Oh
kinds
God,
of
nonstop.
projects from our friends and people we know, our network, and just the majority of stuff, 9 times out of ten, it's just like it's a joke. I wouldn't even give it 5 minutes. Um, and I just, at this point, I just don't see anything else out there that even has 20% of what Aurum has put together. I mean, they got the debit cards. I have the physical card, as you know, and I use this thing every day. A lot of people are using the virtual card on their phones. And so they don't want to be known as just a bot company. They're much more than that. That is kind of the flagship product. The XAI bot is the flagship product. It's the gateway into their so-called ecosystem. Ecosystem's kind of a cliche these days. It's used a lot, but it is true. It truly is an ecosystem that they're building. We just launched the new gold RWA project, and that's a big deal in itself. Just the kind of the
Very credible
strategic
people behind that
partners.
too. Very credible
Yeah,
partners.
you're talking about working with the former, what was his former deputy director or something like that of the Sierra
Sierra Leone.
Leone Central Bank,
Right.
a country's central bank. Those are the kind of partnerships that they're doing. High level, we've got, venture capitalist firms. We had One of the founders of one of the VCs that's actually an investor with Aurum and also advisors to Aurum. They were at the event in January, so got a chance to hear from them. We do have an interview from Cointelegraph between Brent, one of the co-founders of that VC firm, and Brian, and they're having a high-level conversation about how AI fintech companies in the crypto space can find funding and private funding or startups and so forth. So it's a really great it's a really great interview, and it just again the Forbes article, Forbes Financial Council, all these things just to me add up to more credibility that you can't find in anything else. I don't see any other projects out there that have anywhere close to the executive team that Aurum has put together. And so, they do these leadership events every 3 or 4 months. I went to the one in Dubai in January. I'm going to the next one in Maldives, leaving next Monday. So for me, that's another opportunity for information gathering. We can have higher level conversations with the execs this time, ask questions that we didn't get to ask the last time because we didn't know any better. So, it's a building block for me of intel gathering and just, giving me more conviction of what we actually have here. So
Right,
I just haven't
let's go
seen
through
anything
a
else like
few.
this in 26 years.
Let's go through a few things maybe where we can say, hey, listen, this is a common red flag with a contrast of this is different. For example, I've been in scams before and they
Mm.
might communicate with the community, might, that's a might. Most of them don't do a very good job or very much of that at all. But what I've never seen is the head of a scam speaking on lots of other stages. Like that's a big green
Yeah.
flag for me versus the red flags. You don't see these guests. They're not invited anywhere. They're not
No, they
welcome to
don't.
any of those conversations.
They have
So,
no pedigree.
right.
A lot of them don't even have history because they're either ghosts, they don't exist, or they're paid actors, like from, Fiverr gigs. I see that a
Right.
long time. A lot of these scam cartel networks, if you will. They do exist. A lot of them originate out of like Southeast Asia, Eastern Europe. They will hire actors that have, and you can tell they're reading from a script when they're talking on like any kind of video, trying to portray. They rent out office space from these office rental companies, and then they try to portray or give this image of credibility and legitimacy, but that to me is a huge giveaway. Like if I see anything that somebody's reading from a script and they are the so-called figurehead or CEO of the project, that's it. It's probably,
Yeah.
especially if they have a Eastern European accent. Nothing against that, but it's a typical, it's the MO of a lot of these scam cartels, and they will set up shop. I mean, I've seen so many of them over the years come and go. They'll set up shop, they'll create a website, they'll pay influencers out there, marketers that are totally comfortable promoting scams and Ponzi's, and they will get them to become like the master affiliates and to promote to their community. And they'll pump it up, pump it up. They'll pay the promoters really well to keep it going, and then they'll pull the plug. And then they'll set up shop and they'll just change the name. They'll rebrand, but they're doing the same thing over and over again. And most of the time, they do have this kind of fixed daily pay type of thing. That's another just red flag for me, aside from the fake CEO stuff.
I know you and some of your associates and friends, like know Shane, for example, and Shane knows if he's going to be a face for a project like this, he could end up in behind bars if there's a deliberate scam. So I don't see those people joining lightly. Another thing that was a green flag
Yeah,
for me, and let's get your comments on it, is almost everyone on their management team are not people you could hire. If you and I started a business, we couldn't hire them. Hey, I'll pay you 10 grand a month. I want you to come do this at the company.
no,
Well, they're not
no,
for hire. They're too successful. They've
no.
had big track records. They've made their money and they wouldn't come for a salary and
Yeah,
they wouldn't risk going to jail for
exactly.
being a part of a fraud. Like, have you seen that versus a lot of other ones?
Yeah, I mean, most of the time with various uh, daily pay type of programs out there, platforms, and I don't want to put Orem in the same boat, even though a lot of people associate it with a bot as a bot program. It's not, it's much more than that, obviously, but a lot of people associate with that. I would say that most of the time, what I see out there, There is no proof of trading. There's very little transparency. You find out that the address for the company is some guy's, apartment, a small apartment somewhere, or it's a rented office space, just as a placeholder. And there really isn't much more to chew on, And so you really, to me, there's just not enough there to really feel warm and fuzzy, contrasting with, what we have with Aurum. And you're right, Shane, he doesn't have to work another day in his life. He was financially independent, financially free. He built a company in 2006, zero to $1 billion in sales in 5 years. And he became a multimillionaire in the process, many times over. And for him to be not only on board, but to be super excited about the opportunity we have and the potential for the future is a big deal for him. It's a big deal for us to see a guy like that with his pedigree, his experience in this industry to be all in, when he doesn't have to be. And
Well,
he's,
also,
yeah,
oh, sorry, but there was a little delay. I was going to say also the guys from the original Binance guys, we know how much money they made. Like I sleep better at night, rightly or wrongly. It's not the
yeah,
most objective metric, but two things. One, knowing that someone's willing to be front facing and take responsibility, aka they go to jail if they're committing a big fraud, if they're very public. And
yeah,
two, I like when people who are running the outfit don't need my money. And they could easily source the
exactly.
capital elsewhere and they have their own money. They don't have a reason to steal my money. Do you feel this way
Yeah.
here? Or was that a crazy
Yeah.
thought?
Well, this also, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Because in a lot of t cases, the guys running these other platforms, they're in it for the money. It's a greed factor thing. And I've just seen it over and over again. And there's also usually, if there is somebody that's more transparent, a figurehead, there's usually a lot of arrogance and big egos that go along with that. And I've just seen the pattern repeat itself so many times where it's oftentimes, even if you have a great product or service, it's often the management or the people that are running the show that basically run it into the ground because of either big egos, arrogance, mismanagement,
Yep.
mismanagement of the funds, mismanagement of the growth of the company, et cetera, et cetera. There's so many different points of failure for those kinds of things. But that's why I feel comfortable because Brian was at Binance when Binance went from zero to a billion-dollar company in under 6 months. He saw behind the scenes what was required as far as the infrastructure to be able to scale at that level. And so that gives me a certain level of comfort knowing that we went from 20,000 users worldwide when I joined in October last year. We're now well over 170,000 in 6 months. We could easily be a million or more by the end of this year. And so knowing that he has the experience, other executives have the experience to be able to make sure that the support is scaling along with the membership base, that the payment service providers that they use, which are a third party, by the way, they're not taking the money directly or paying the money directly. They use third party payment processors. And also knowing that, as far as the origin story, which we've heard many times, in fact, I have a 20-minute kind of candid discussion with Ahmad from the home office. I don't know if you still have the link to my photos on my Google Photos from the trip, but there is a 20-minute video in there that I've recorded on my phone where we had him share the origin story and how it all came to be. And so that to me, knowing that the founders were already wealthy investors ahead of time. They're not looking to make a quick buck here and run. This is more of a legacy project. They want to create a unicorn. They want to create something that's never been done before. And to me, being part of that is very exciting. And probably the most exciting project I've seen in 26 years. And I'm very, very picky. Like it took a while for me to gain the certain level of conviction. It happened starting in probably December when I first saw the trading proof with my own eyes, even though I trusted my buddy Dino, known him for 20 years. He and I have been involved in a lot of different projects together, many of which have rugged before. And so, we learned a lot about what to look for during that whole process because we've lost a lot of money, multiple six figures over the years in things that didn't work. And when you get burned like that, you don't want to make a habit of that, right? You want to just make sure that you don't make the same mistake again. And so nobody has a crystal ball. I always say, look, doesn't matter what the project is, anything that's of a speculative nature, anything in crypto. only use money that you can afford to lose. It's like, our mantra. I know you put that out there too. Not financial advice, but that is the golden rule, I guess you could say. And in this case, it's a $120 decision. For somebody to want to be able to kick the tires, do their due diligence from the inside out, 120 bucks. Then you can do that. You can see how the whole system works and then see if it's for you or not. I say that to all the super skeptics out there. Open-minded skeptics, though. There's a difference between open-minded skeptics and closed-minded skeptics. This is not for closed-minded skeptics. It's like
Yeah.
go stay with your typical 401k vanilla products and small gains and be comfortable there. But this is not for you. If you're somebody that is highly skeptical and you're just trying to poke holes in things, or you're asking for things that are just not possible. Like some people have asked, "Hey, can I see third-party audits of their books?" It's like, no, it's not going to happen. It's a privately held company. They're not obligated to share their inner workings and their money flows with anybody.
I
And
always
if
remind people who ask that, I'm like, well, you remember that Bernie Madoff guy? He was audited by the big four accounting firms year after year after year.
Yep,
So was WorldCom. It doesn't give you anything like who,
yeah,
but and if you would have looked into who the shady characters were running them, that would have been more of the red flag than the
yes.
audited books.
Again, due diligence only gets you so far.
Right.
That's the main point. It's like you can only go so far in your information gathering process. At some point, you have to say, is this worth the risk or is it not worth the risk? At the end of the day, but nobody's going to try and convince you otherwise.
Hey, Brad, let's talk about one of the elephants in the room that I feel comes up a lot. I think the small retail investor gets lost in their world of scarcity and starts to think like these guys must need my money versus realizing when you have a management team like that and you're hanging out in Dubai and Hong Kong and the big crypto stages, they could get the money easy. It's not the money
Yeah,
they need. In my opinion, and I'd love to hear your
it's the
thoughts on this,
users.
they're trying to you can't buy a user base. So here's a
Yeah,
way to attract a user base, and you can't have
exactly.
an exchange without a user base. It's hard.
That's right. And the fact that two-thirds of the capital that's being traded right now is actually institutional capital, private equity. We're like a small part of that.
Yeah.
And the institutional capital, they're not getting the kind of returns we're getting. So the company has a lot more breakage as far as they have a bigger profit share for their larger clients, who probably want to have things traded more conservatively as well.
Yep.
But knowing that there is VC capital involved, um, that's, I think, very important to know. Also, that they have multiple products, they have multiple profit centers. It's not just from the bots. They've got the debit card. For every $249 sale, the company keeps $100. There isn't much overhead for them. It's virtual, it's digital. So, and they've sold thousands and thousands of those cards. So, yeah, to me, there's a lot of things that you have to kind of read between the lines. A lot of people will find out that information over time, but it's not necessarily readily available on the surface. But if you dig deeper, you'll find that there's a lot of big money involved that was there before the affiliate side existed. So, for instance, Aurum, it was an institutional company 2 years before they added the affiliate partner program. It did not start out as a network marketing company. I think that's really significant because most opportunities or projects out there in the crypto space like this that have some sort of, passive component and an affiliate program attached to it, they start out as, a affiliate marketing, network marketing type of business model from day one. They don't have institutional capital that's backing them like this does. So those are some pretty important and significant differences compared to everything else out there. And again, that's more, green flags for me. Gives me the warm and fuzzies knowing that they don't need us. They need users. So one of the conversations we had with Ahmad, CMO, in person in the home office, we were talking about the subject, about funding and everything. He's like, look, raising money is easy. He says, as long you can raise $100 million tomorrow if you have a great product, a great service, and you're able to sell it. He says, what we need is we're building a community. That takes time and it takes work and it takes the help of an affiliate model. because they could have gone the route. The founders could have gone the route of doing cold market advertising, kind of like what Crypto.com did. You know, they hired celebrities to do these infomercials. But Ahmad convinced them that they should stick with the affiliate slash network marketing model because it would be stickier, it would grow the community faster. And so that's proving to be the case. So to me, that's it's just the proof is in the pudding. Yeah.
Well, Brad, I want to keep it short and sweet. I know you got other things to do, and you got to prepare also for your trip coming up soon. So I
Yeah.
appreciate
Got
the
to get packing
discussion.
soon.
Excited to share this with people.
Yeah, my
I
pleasure.
think going over these red flags and green flags are important for people to hear from our perspectives, people who've been around for a lot longer, and
Yeah.
let them know that we have looked at, we didn't take these decisions lightly. We don't like
Nope.
losing money. We've all been there. We've had some big wins. We've had some big
Yeah.
losses, and we just want wins in the future. We don't want anyone getting hurt. So de-risk, play smart, don't get too greedy,
Yeah.
but make sure you play to win on some level as well.
Absolutely. And this is the first team build I've done in 20 years. I'm very, very picky about what I share with my followers, contacts, friends. So at this stage, I'm all in. I've set aside a lot of the other projects that I was working on, my own bot development projects, including. And to me, it's like strike while the iron's hot. This is, in my opinion, the hottest opportunity right now that's available
Fantastic.
in the online space. And I want to be part of that growth because 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now, it's game over. It's like, who knows how many millions of users they're going to have. And I want to get as much of the piece of the pie that we can as a team. I mean, you're already, you're rocking. You just came in and just started crushing it, went off like a rocket right from day one. So, you've experienced it from all the different angles so far. And it's a blast, to be in business with friends of ours that we've known for 5, 10, 20 years, that, I've had relationships with that I respect. That's to me, I'm super grateful for that. So
Love it. Well, thanks for your
thanks
time,
for
Brad.
having
Enjoy
me.
your travels, enjoy Italy, enjoy all that good stuff.
Thank you,
I'll
my
let
friend.
you cut you loose here, man, but I appreciate you taking the time, and we'll do some more of these in the future.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Take
Take
care. Have a
care.
good one.
Okay. All right. That's a wrap.